Good evening once again. It's Monday night, it's 8 o'clock, and it's time for the Monday Review Show. This is where we discuss all things referees and refereeing. If you'd like to make a comment, there is a little space down on the bottom right-hand side of your screen there, and you can send in your question or your comment, and we'd be glad to answer it for you. Delighted to be joined again, as usual, every Monday by former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL, Keith Hackett. Great to have you, Keith. Thanks very much for joining us.
Delighted to be on the show again.
Thank you. Let's start with the Man United game against Spurs just the other day, and the red card for Fernandes. Quite a bit of debate, quite a bit of discussion, quite a lot of comment on it with differing opinions as to yay or nay. What's your opinion?
Right. I thought it was an interesting challenge. Clearly we see the player slip, lose his balance, and the referee in a reasonably good position. But I don't think, given the outcome, that he did have the best view, and he saw something that perhaps we didn't, or he saw something that we, the lack of clarification. When it happened, I expected to some degree, well, first of all, for me, it was a reckless challenge, not a red. And yes, the foot was high, but we had the opportunity of seeing that clip from different angles, and it was pretty evident that it didn't meet the criteria for serious foul play. And I just want to clarify that. Serious foul play, you've got to have excessive force. You've got to have a degree of brutality in that challenge. You've got to endanger the safety of an opponent. And for me, I think that there wasn't brutality in this challenge. He slipped, he went over. It wasn't studs that made contact or a stamping action with the leg of the opponent, which was high up, in fairness. It was the back of the boot, even the back of the ankle. So for me, I found it incredible that VAR did not come in and give the referee the opportunity of a second view of that incident, because I think...
Do you know who the VAR was?
Yeah, the VAR was an experienced Premier League referee, Peter Banks. He seems to be spending more time in the VAR role than he does
on the field.
On the field. So for me, I think that they made, between the two of them, they got it wrong. Fernandes should not have gone. Even given the reputation of Fernandes, it was a bit of a pain in the backside as a player. There's no question about that. But you have to see it as a referee balanced and view it. Can we learn from it? Yeah, I think that, the one thing about refereeing is the viewing angle and the exposure that a referee has to the television, who can push an angle and search out a different view that exposes the referee's error. And this is exactly what he did.
Yeah, just put in on that, Keith, please. What do you think was going through, Chris? We call him Kavanagh, you call him Kavanagh. What do you think was going through his mind when it was a straight red? I mean, there was no hesitation.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we talk about, and I think we may have mentioned it in the past, is that composure, as far as the referee's concerned, is such an important facet within that mosaic of a referee. Yeah. And I think he jumped. He didn't give himself thinking time. And sometimes, you can be really close to play, and the sounds and the reactions make it worse. And of course, there's no question that the opponent rolling over in agony gives you another piece of that mosaic that might well be the spark that influences the decision you make. But this is why we have VAR. And this is why I found it incredible that VAR didn't come in. And I was interested because I thought, how would colleague Mark Halsey view that? And his was a phone call to me saying, I've seen it. I don't think it's a red card because of. And of course, then we hear television, the sort of so-called experts saying this is not a red card. And we then listen to them stating that a Premier League spokesman had confirmed that the player had been dismissed for serious foul play. And I reiterate once again, a tackle, this is serious foul play. A tackle or challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent or uses excessive force or brutality must be sanctioned as serious foul play. Any player who lunges, now I didn't see the lunge, I saw the slip, at an opponent in challenging for the ball from the front, from the side, or from behind, using one or both legs with excessive force or endangers the safety of an opponent is guilty of serious foul play. When we look at that law, this was reckless, for sure. It was a yellow card, not a red card. I stand by that. That's my view.
And you and I know too well, we only get one chance to look at these things.
Correct.
And he only got one chance. I'm just thinking, and I'm putting myself in Chris Kavanagh's shoes now, or in his mind, in that he saw a foot by Fernandes high on the shin or close to the shin of the opponent, and probably thought that's a leg breaker. I'm trying to
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think that he didn't necessarily see the slip. He didn't see the left foot of Fernandes give way on the field.
And, it all happened in a split second as well.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the last thing a referee wants to do is dismiss a player, and when you dismiss a player, you've got to be 100%. So this is why I'm overly critical now of the VAR, because I think they're confused. I think somebody said, we don't want you to referee the game. But this, in my mind, a red card for this incident, having the opportunity of having that composure and having it viewed, then you would expect the VAR to come in and say, that is a clear and obvious error. Chris, I want you to go and have a look at the monitor. And I think that if Kavanagh had stayed with his decision, I would have still disagreed with it, but it gave that view that it would have given him the opportunity of having another look in a composed manner without the influence of players, and he could then say, right, I'm making this call. I think what's interesting today is listening to Dermot Gallagher, who tends generally in his reviews on television to side with the referee. Any minuscule doubt, he's supporting the referee. They're his friends, they're his colleagues, and he effectively worked for the PGMOL. Today, he said that he thought that Chris may not have had the best view. He might have, in his mind, created a picture that wasn't factual, and therefore he was saying it's reckless, it's a yellow card, and not a red. So I think it's unusual for Dermot and I to see it the same.
Okay, so just to elaborate or expand a little bit, Keith, because I got comments from people today, so I said I'll bring them up. What will happen what should Chris have done, the referee? Should he have said, hold on, not issued any card, get advice from the VAR, and then go and look and then issue the red card? Having given the red card, he then can he go and reverse it?
I think the reality, first of all, is you don't wait for the VAR. You're the referee. You're making the calls. And if you believe that's a red card, which he did, he was adamant that that was a red card. It came out very quickly. I think he should have given himself more thinking time. And, visualization is so important in the world of refereeing. And that is this ability to replay in your own mind what has taken place. And in this situation, he would have hoped that a VAR, instead of saying or not saying anything, confirming that he's got it right, he would have continued the game 100% happy with his decision. I think if he reviewed it today, he would come up with the same conclusion and feel once again that a referee on the middle has been let down with the VAR. So it's his decision. He has to make it. And then when that decision is made, if the VAR sees that as a clear and obvious error, VAR comes in.
Okay.
The VAR just went, I'm not seeing it as a clear and obvious error, so I'm not saying anything.
So just to use a rugby perspective then, could they or should the referee say to the VAR, listen, I'm not sure about this. In my opinion, it's a red card. Is there any reason why I shouldn't give a red card? Because that's what the rugby guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. In a way, that is part of the process that rugby does and does it very effectively. We don't take that process. We make the decision and almost stand by that decision unless that guy in the VAR room thinks he's made a clear and obvious error. And the difficulty is the competence levels of these guys when the VAR. They might well be a very good referee, by the way, in the middle, but when they sit at Stockley Park, somehow either the concentration goes or it's his mate, and I don't want to put him into trouble.
Okay, but you
or
said
the easy decision is I'll follow him.
Yeah, you just said earlier there that we don't do that. Should we do it? Maybe.
Oh, I'm absolutely. I'm quite clear that the process that rugby uses should be introduced into the process in football. I've said that for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now, just to finish off on that, can or could United now appeal that decision?
Oh, I'd be disappointed and surprised if they didn't appeal this red card.
And would they do it on the basis of what, say, well, not you and I are saying because it's much later, but what Dermot Gallagher is saying?
I think that they may. Well, I think ultimately, at the end of the day, they literally have up to, I think, lunchtime on Monday today to get that appeal in. And sometimes Gallagher is on TV later. So one of the things that always amazes me is that football clubs have a huge number of people around the game in expert roles. Rarely do they have anybody that's got any refereeing background to advise them.
I know.
Take it as read. I think the football clubs, if you remember, Nottingham Forest tried it with Mark Clattenburg, but he got into the politics of it. I think what you've got to do is you present your case. You actually say, look, from where this is the law, and the law has not been, in this instance, serious foul play is their claim. And therefore, for me, if I look at the law and I look at it from a theory and practical point of view, it's not fulfilled. Therefore, I would recommend an appeal.
So lunchtime today, and I guess nothing has happened. They haven't appealed it.
Well, I think that it's not always published immediately because the old process is that once they've gone into the appeal process, they'll also wait for the referee's report. The referee's report, by the way, is sent electronically. and contains very little information.
Yeah.
It's very short to the point. It's an electronic E3 whatever, and that pushes through. And the FA have it on their desk by 9 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
All of the reports.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Keith. Now, a couple of other things, and this has come up. It's coming up regularly and came up on my interview on SABC tonight. And just to say hello and welcome to all the South African viewers to the show. You're very, very welcome. When is the right time to book a player? Is there a right time? Is there a wrong time? When should a referee start issuing yellow cards? Now, I have an answer for that, but I'd like to hear you.
Well, I think that, first of all, there's no restriction on time. So you can caution somebody in minute one. What you have to do is you have to take into account, one, consistency within the 90 minutes is really important. If you do it in minute one, you have to do it in minute 90. If you've cautioned somebody a yellow card in the 8th minute and he does a similar offence in the 89th minute, he goes. So I'm quite clear. The law is certainly important on that. I think there are areas, however, where effective management can be applied. Let's say, for example,
Keith, management by whom?
Well, by the referee.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I'm quite clear. There's a step process in referee. There's the quiet word. There's that proactive management, not overly done, but you may run alongside a player and say, I want an improvement in your behaviour. That might be because off camera or off the ball or whatever, he showed some degree of dissent. And you will build in your own tolerance level. I talk about, in terms of the temperature of the game and a kettle. And the good games and the experienced referees allow the game to have some heat in it by way of the kettles bubbling, not boiling and going into steam. And your value as a referee is, one, what is your tolerance level? What is your experience? The law allows you, for example, to apply advantage. But sometimes I see young referees applying advantage and putting their control at risk. Yeah. This is a player back there. So I think this is a judgment. There is no time element to a yellow card. But what you have to do is build a consistency, and through your experience, game to game, your tolerance level might improve, i.e., when you first get on that field of play, you might flash yellow card early and for a particular first offence, whereas the more experienced referees will know their tolerance level and know, is their control at risk? And also the players, because if the players actually losing self-control, I'm more inclined to give a yellow card. If a player is physically, publicly showing dissent, I'm more inclined to give a yellow card whenever. But I think that one of the things that we have to do is having our own mind that this is not a piece of equipment that you flash like confetti. All too often, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about 65 yellow cards in a game and one referee having 14 yellow cards in that game. I'm quite clear, right? My tolerance level is tighter than that, and I would be absolutely more proactive. So it's that quiet word. It's that public rebuke, where you bring the player to you, you ask the player to come to you, you bring the captain across, and you say to that player, through the captain, I want an improvement. I want an improvement in your behaviour. My tolerance level with you is now gone. Now, I'm not closing off my options. I'm making the point. And I think all too often, referees are not firm enough, not strong enough. And they hide behind yellow cards. And at this moment in time, we're averaging in games in England, the majority at the Premier League level now at 6 yellow cards a game. In my time, it was 3 because we were preventative referees, proactive, not reactive.
Remember way back when, I certainly remember, I'm sure you do as well, David Smith, wasn't it?
Yes.
Way back, and he booked a player in the first 2 minutes, and the commentators were going crazy. Oh, that's too early. Now he's going to have a string of yellow cards. In fact, it did the trick because it showed that he wasn't going to take nonsense, and if anybody else stepped out of line, they were going to get it too. So that was a lesson. Where
the lesson here was what
they seem to be today allowing players to get away with murder, and then trying to control the game in the second half by dishing out yellow cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nonsense. Yeah. I mean, I can remember being at Hillsborough, the team I support, Sheffield Wednesday. Mark Halsey was the referee. And in, I think it was 18 seconds, there was the denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by the goalkeeper, who came out and grabbed the ball and denied an obvious goal. And Mark Halsey looked stunned, but he issued the red card. So in 18 seconds, the goalkeeper of Sheffield Wednesday being sent off.
So just on that now, Keith, again, I got lots of comments because this happened in a game in South Africa. There was a player got yellow carded. Now, the situation was the goalkeeper was back on his line. This is about probably 7-8 yards outside the penalty area. There were two defenders.
Yeah.
One defender wrestled. I mean, the way he wrestled the attacker to the ground would have done great justice to a rugby match.
Yeah.
And the other defender was about 10, 15 yards away. And the referee, people were screaming for a red card for a dog soul.
Yeah. Well, determining, first of all, you've got to look at the direction of play, the ball, and the probability of being able to control the ball. This player obviously had control of the ball before he was wrestled to the ground.
And he was racing on to have a shot on goal. Yeah.
So and of course, then if there is a covering defender, right, there's a goalkeeper, but you're looking at a covering defender as well, and the position. Now, this is where the referee has got to visualize very quickly that scenario. Is that defender likely to put in a challenge?
Yeah, in this instance, he wasn't. He was too far away.
Right. Well, right. So I'm just going through the other process as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So when I'm coaching referees, I say for offences outside the penalty area, when a foul takes place, in your mind, take away the offender, as though the foul has not been committed and the offender is not there. Would that player go on and have a shot on goal? And that's the thought process. Take away the defender that's committed the offence because he's committed a foul. If he hadn't committed that offence, would that player in possession of the ball have had the opportunity to score a goal? Would that defender have had the opportunity to come in and make a challenge? And that's the visualization that you have to operate as a referee.
Yeah.
Now, where the lawmakers have complicated it is, of course, when an offence takes place inside the penalty area, you will, because of triple jeopardy, you will look at, did the challenger for the ball, did the person who committed the offence make a genuine attempt to play the ball? If he did, inside the penalty area, he gets a yellow card, not a red. Outside the area, in that scenario, if you believe the defender, 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, are not going to be in a position, they're too far away to make a challenge, right? When that foul took place, then in that scenario, the player who's committed the offence goes for the denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity.
I have the little video clip on my phone, and I'll send it to you at the end of the show.
Yeah.
There was no attempt to play the ball. He wrestled the attacker to the ground. Honestly, the challenge would not have been
it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter about what type of foul it was. For denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, it can be all that happens is it can be a careless challenge, it can be a holding offence, and in that situation, right, if there's no covering defenders and it's a foul and he's heading for goal and his probability is to control the ball, he got the offender is sent off for the denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity.
Okay, just one last thing, Keith. I don't know if you saw the Norwich Derby game.
Oh,
there was an incident where the ball was played forward, a challenge came in, the attacker skipped the challenge and went to the goal line and crossed it over. And the argument was the whole of the ball across the goal line or not? Certainly from me looking at it, and this also came up on the South African, believe it or not, because South Africans watch a lot of English football.
Yes.
In my opinion, looking at it, and it's very difficult because there is no VAR, there is no anything like that to help the referee. It did appear at first glance, at normal speed, that the player had got the ball before the whole of the ball had crossed the touchline. And the touchline, those lines belong to the areas of which there are boundaries, as we know. So did the whole of the ball cross the whole of the line? At first sight, it didn't seem like. I was since informed that still photographs, and they don't have VAR, still photographs showed that the ball had, in fact, gone over the line. But the referee, there's no way the referee was going to know that.
I mean, this is why I think that we do the physical testing of assistant referees, why we expect them to drop down onto the goal line in those situations. You hope that the assistant is standing behind the flag and in a good position.
Yeah.
But sadly, sometimes through the action of play, the skill of the play, the speed at which the game is played, the assistant gets caught out of position. This whole scenario was why I stood up at a conference many years ago of the Premier League and said, I want goal line technology, and then work with Hawkeye. I know that their system is capable of giving me that information. I think what's interesting is the semi-automated system with the chip in the ball, hopefully is going to aid that scenario. But this is, it looked completely out of play. And of course, the nonsense is then they go on and score, which is just like sad for the match official. The referee hasn't got look, the referee's not even able to make a call on that.
Yeah. Just going to put a comment here, Keith. This is from Brian Walker. Hello, gentlemen. I've just joined in. After watching a few games with red cards, it is so important to bring in the sin bin for any incident that requires it, as every game has been ruined from a spectator's point of view. After the red card, Arsenal v City, I switched off after it became boring.
Yeah.
Well, Brian,
I can say this, that I see when the English FA announced that sin bins would be used at grassroots level, certain leagues, The league of which I'm president has sin bins in operation. I thought they would be used much more than they are. I can tell you this, when it is used, it's very effective. It's not only an individual, and of course it's only applied for dissent.
Yeah.
So off the player goes, and it's an individual punishment, but it's also a team punishment, and it's immediate. So I think that's a great observation, and I have to tell you this, that obviously a yellow card has to be given. Because of the weakness of yellow cards now, because referees are giving so many, it's lost its deterrent effect.
Oh, no, undoubtedly.
And I think the balance has to be that we'll bring in the sin bin. I think there's a reluctance because it's a little bit, as I say, like going to the theatre to watch, say, Michael Crawford in Some Mothers Do Have Them, and he hits a bum note when he's singing, and the director says, "You're off, mate." And we sit there watching the show without the lead act. And sadly, football is in the entertainment business at the highest level, and that's what the game does currently. It penalises. So I think it would strengthen the yellow card. But I also think this: when a player in games throughout the season, when he's in the totting up procedure, when he's 3 yellow cards, he's had 3 yellow cards in 3 different games, that's when he should serve a 1-match ban, not 5.
Yeah. Keith, as always, many, many thanks for your insights and your comments, and thank you out there for watching. We'll do it all again next Monday. Until then, good night and God bless. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks.